Hello guys, you're welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are feeling good.
Reciting the Qur'an is a ibadah, or an act of worship, which is something like prayer, for example, which requires that you do it in a certain way. Otherwise, it will not be accepted. You can't just simply pray Fajr whenever you want or however you want. You must follow certain steps and guidelines. That's why Qur'an recitation as ibadah requires that you follow certain guidelines for it to be accepted, inshaAllah. Here are the 4 conditions to follow so that your Qur'an recitation is accepted, inshaAllah. All 4 are very important, but the last one is the one that most people overlook, so watch till the end. First, and most importantly, intention. Although this is the easiest thing to do, it is also the easiest thing to overlook or kind of mess up. Especially when you do a certain ibadah for a long time. The intention behind it may start to fade or even change. So renewing your intention and reminding yourself with it is too important. But what should your intention be? Well, your intention should be that your recitation is purely for the sake of Allah. So for nothing or no one else, only Allah. And now some might be thinking, well, that's pretty easy. How can anyone miss this? Well, in many ways. Like, for example, someone would say, because I have a nice voice and I want to use it. Or show off your tajweed or knowledge about the Qur'an. Or you want to recite the Qur'an in people's gatherings and make some money. Or you want to impress those praying behind you with your recitation, and other sort of intentions where Allah is not the only one you seek. So your intention should not be for Allah and or something else, but must only be for the sake of Allah. Instead, your intention could be to ponder over the word of Allah, because reciting the Qur'an is a ibadah and I want to worship Allah. Because you want to follow the sunnah of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, because you want to go to Jannah, or you're afraid of Jahannam, or just simply because you love the Qur'an. And these are just examples for the intention that you might have for your recitation to be accepted, inshaAllah. And remember, intention is in your heart, and it is not something that you speak out or say out loud. Condition number 2, reciting the Qur'an properly, using the tajweed. What we mean here is the basic tajweed, which means pronouncing every letter properly from its proper makhraj, with correct tashkil, that does not change the meaning of the ayat. Using other tajweed rules like noon sakina, qalqala, and other rules, make your recitation closer to the sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And remember what Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, the one who's proficient in the recitation of the Qur'an will be with the honorable and obedient scribes. And he who recites the Qur'an and finds it difficult to recite, doing his best to recite in the best way possible, will have 2 rewards. So the better you are at reciting the Qur'an, the greater the reward. And even if you are still learning and your tajweed is not perfect, but you are doing your best, you will have a great reward as well. And with the will of Allah, you will perfect your recitation. Condition number 3, beautify your voice. Our Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, told us to make our voices beautiful when reciting the Qur'an. Naturally, not everyone has a beautiful voice, or the voice of Shaykh al-Husari, for example. But the intended meaning here is to recite the Qur'an with the most beautiful voice you have, without exaggeration or singing the ayat. And that's very important. And in another less known, but an authentic hadith of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, he elaborates on another aspect of what beautiful voice is when reciting the Qur'an. He said, among the people who recite the Qur'an with the most beautiful voices is the man who, when you hear him, you think that he fears Allah. So beautifying your voice is for everyone, not just for those who have a certain specific gift. Now, condition number 4. Applying tartil, which has two aspects to it. For one, it refers to the speed of recitation that is not too fast to the point that if someone is listening to you, they wouldn't understand what you are reciting. So your recitation has to make sense and to be understood. It should not be too fast to the point that you can't make words out from each other. But the other aspect of tartil also implies moving your lips and reciting with a voice that you at least can hear. So reciting the Qur'an is with a voice that you at least can hear, not just by reading with your eyes. But what if I want to recite without moving my lips, just by looking at the mushaf? Is that allowed? Or do you get rewarded for that? Well, yes, of course. In reciting the Qur'an, we differentiate between two things: قراءة الترتيل and قراءة التدبر. The first one, قراءة الترتيل, is the one we just talked about, reciting the Qur'an with a voice. And the second one, قراءة التدبر, is the act of just looking at the mushaf and pondering over its ayat by looking at its words and thinking about them. And that is also something that we are rewarded for, but not the type of recitation that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, meant when he said, "Whoever recites a letter from the Book of Allah, he will be credited with a good deed, and a good deed gets a tenfold reward." I don't say Alif Lam Mim is one letter, but Alif is a letter, Lam is a letter, and Mim is a letter. So with this, he means reciting the Qur'an, as we indicated earlier, with a voice that you at least can hear. So both cases are actually good. When you recite the Qur'an with your eyes, you get rewarded, insha'Allah. And when you recite the Qur'an with your lips, you get rewarded as well, insha'Allah. So next time you open your mushaf, hopefully right after this video, remember, renew your intention and direct it towards Allah alone. Follow the sunnah by reciting correctly with a beautiful voice and using tartil. And insha'Allah, your recitation will be accepted and heavily rewarded.
All right, guys. Based on my understanding or what I've learned so far, I feel to be able to recite the Quran, you need to be connected spiritually. You need to you. I think you need to have the voice, but it's not necessarily you have to have the perfect voice. I need to do practice, because some people go for, I think they go to school to learn this, because there was one particular video I watched that this man was teaching his students how to recite the Quran, because you can't recite the Quran anyhow. There are some tones you have to use to recite the Quran, because each tone has its own meaning. I think that was what he taught them that period. So based on my own understanding, if you want to recite the Quran and you've done this riaza, you've gone for the teachings and everything, you also need to able to connect spiritually. It's beyond the physical, because you praying to God, you need to be spiritually connected for you to, so that and make sure that you are not distracted when you are praying. Pray wholeheartedly, use your voice well. And sometimes when you will use our voice, it's God that I think God should take control. It's not how perfect or how beautiful. Yeah, your voice has to be beautiful, but it doesn't have to be so perfect. You can work on it. You can do riaza. Make sure that you are connected spiritually, connected to Allah. From then pray. So, and you need to keep doing rehearsal. Need to keep rehearsing and making sure that you learn better, because learning makes perfection, right? When you are learning, it makes perfection. But that's what I learned. I love this discussion, very beautiful. Let me know your point of view. I'll see you next time. Bye.